вниманию участников шестираундового поединка в первом полусреднем весе.
Live here on the Salida Promotions YouTube channel. Corey Erdman here with you, calling all the action for the latest in the Fight and Win series presented by Shamo Boxing Promotions here on the Salida channel. And we're going to kick things off in the junior welterweight division, or thereabouts, a catch weight of 138 pounds. A matchup between Tikhon Netesov and Arkadi Harutyunyan, kind of a fixture on the Russian club scene here. And we'll listen in on the introductions.
Рефери в ринге Андрей Курнявка. Первый раунд.
Синий готов. Красный готов.
And we are underway here in our opener in the junior welterweight division. That is Tikhon Netesov in the purple trunks, taking on the veteran Arkadi Harutyunyan. Netesov 5-0-1, two of those wins coming by way of knockout. Harutyunyan, if you're a fan of the Russian scene, you've no doubt seen him plenty. The record of 4-17. None of those wins coming by way of knockout. He's lost 17 of his last 18 fights, and he is used as an opponent in scenarios like this, where a promoter, a matchmaker, is looking to test someone like Netesov, who may have designs of moving his way up the ladder, and how these fighters fare against someone like Harutyunyan is an indicator as far as how far they could go. Unless saw Netesov scoring a 6-round unanimous decision over Vladislav Stepanov in February of this year. He flashed a little bit of power in that fight. He scored a knockdown in the 4th round and almost finished that fight before picking up the decision. Good jab to the body there from Netesov, and reading body language, I think Harutyunyan might have felt that one. Good left hand comes in over the top from Netesov.
Stop.
Harutyunyan has been stopped 4 times in his 17 losses. It's been a while since we've seen him stop brutally, so to speak. He was stopped on cuts back in 2020. You'd really have to go back to 2016 when he was stopped by Alexander Podolsky, when he was knocked out. In general, Harutyunyan is able to take prospects the distance. He's a spoiler. He gives guys rounds, and he can at times be prone to some bizarre antics in the ring as well. But so far, he's taking this one seriously. Although this one very much a Netesov round here in round 1 as we come to the final 10 seconds of the opener, as we kick off our broadcast here on the Salida Promotions YouTube channel. One last good left hand from Netesov right before the bell. Round 2 underway. In our 138-pound opener, a catch weight for this one between Tikhon Netesov and Arkadi Harutyunyan. Harutyunyan might be the first fighter I've ever seen using an adapted Sprite bottle as a water bottle in the corner. As far as I know, only water is allowed in the corners here in Russia. I don't think he's downing soda in between rounds, but he was down there by a push. I'll be ruled a slip. Netesov is a very interesting young man. He's also a fourth-year student at the Institute of Architecture, Construction, and Design in Russia. He spent 7 years playing basketball on a fairly high level as a child before transitioning to boxing after his father brought him to the boxing gym. Plans on becoming an architect later in life. And during the pandemic, he helped start up a healthy lifestyle project at his university, and he actually helped film video workouts for his fellow students to follow along with as they were cooped up at home during the grips of the pandemic. So Netesov potentially has 2 very successful careers on the go. Harutyunyan looks for a right hand, but he gets countered by a left right down the middle there from Netesov. Harutyunyan mostly playing defense. That left hand blocked, parried away by Harutyunyan. But Harutyunyan catches that right hand behind the ear. He staggers back. It's hard to tell sometimes if Harutyunyan has been impacted by a shot. He's sometimes a little bit off balance. Very unconventional style in the ring as we come to the end of round 2. Round 3 underway as Tikhon Netesov taking on the journeyman Arkadi Harutyunyan, who's lost 17 of his last 18 fights. And his role in this sport is to do exactly this. It's to give rounds to young prospects. And this role in the sport is particularly common in the UK scene. You'll see journeymen with 80, 90, 100+ losses, sometimes more, and sometimes see them on a weekly basis. Arkadi Harutyunyan not putting up those kinds of numbers, but is very much in the same vein. He's someone who's reliable, will make weight, isn't too much of a threat to young fighters like Netesov. But he's durable. He can give them rounds. And for someone like Netesov, and even if this one goes the scheduled 6, you're still learning something in there. At just 21 years of age. Every pro round that he can put in the bank is of value to him. There's a couple good body shots from Harutyunyan. Lead left hand from Netesov connects and comes behind it with a couple of right hooks on the inside. Harutyunyan back to the perimeter.
Stop. Box.
You saw Harutyunyan kind of doing that tapping on the shoulder. See that stuff there. Harutyunyan has been penalized in several of his fights before for doing that excessively. As he eats a left hand from Netesov. Final 20 seconds of round 3 in our opener. Still to come, it is our main event. Nikolai Potapov, a top-ranked bantamweight, will be taking on Oscar Richard in our 8-round main event. Coming up later on here on the Salida Promotions YouTube channel. Round 4 underway now between Tikhon Netesov and Arkadi Harutyunyan. Netesov, the 21-year-old southpaw. Former youth basketball player turned boxer. And when you're 5'7.5", boxing might be the better choice for you unless you've got some serious handles. You can find men your size, as Netesov is now making his living in the junior welterweight division. The only blemish on Netesov's record, that draw came against Dmitry Kulikov, who was 2-0-1 heading into their bout. That was on the Christmas Eve show put on by Shama Boxing, which was also broadcast here on the Salida Promotions channel. We mentioned Harutyunyan being kind of a fixture on this scene. Netesov becoming a familiar face in this venue. This is his 3rd fight at USC Soviet Wings. And almost every Russian fighter of note these days comes up through this venue at some point, either on their way up or later on in their career. Oftentimes, staying busy, getting some bounce back wins. This place is one of the busiest venues for boxing anywhere in the world. Final 30 seconds of round 4 as Harutyunyan feeling a little braver here in round 4, letting his hands go. As round 4 comes to a close, 2 to go here in our opener. Round 5, as Tikhon Netesov trying to find some holes in the spoiler extraordinaire that is Arkadi Harutyunyan. This is why Harutyunyan keeps getting these assignments. He knows how to take care of himself in the ring. He really engages when he feels like it. Knows how to use the perimeter of the ring. Knows how to tie up and make these fights ugly. So if you're a matchmaker, if you're a promoter, you can bank on rounds from Harutyunyan. And with all due respect to Harutyunyan, he's never scored a knockout. He isn't particularly aggressive, really at any point in the bout. You can be fairly confident of the condition of your fighter coming out of the fight, and pretty confident of the result. But Harutyunyan will let his hands go here and there. And ultimately, it's a learning opportunity for fighters like Netesov, who could figure out in kind of a lower stakes environment how to better cut off the ring, how to deal with some of those frustrating little veteran tricks that Harutyunyan brings to the table. Good left hands connecting there from Netesov. Interesting to note, too, that Harutyunyan did start his career 3-0. And it was after his loss in his 4th pro fight that, well, he either decided to go the journeyman route or it chose him. Some combination of the two. Final 30 seconds. Good left hand connects there from Netesov. That might have been the best shot of the fight. And caught Harutyunyan leaning over. Hit him with a sweeping left hand. Harutyunyan missing over the top of the right hand. Another good left from Netesov, who's picking up the intensity as we come to the end of round 5. sixth and final round of our opener between Tikhon Netesov and Arkadi Harutyunyan. Netesov, the 5-0-1 potential prospect, taking on the 4-17 Arkadi Harutyunyan, who is doing his job once again here tonight, giving rounds to the 21-year-old Tikhon Netesov of Irkutsk, Russia. And that shot might have staggered Netesov, but no, even Netesov acknowledged that was a tangling of the feet. Netesov, the fourth-year architectural school student, was trained by Alexander Sazankov. Sazankov has had a couple fighters on the card here on the deeper undercard that perhaps you've been watching. In our preliminary bouts, he's been a busy man cornering fighters here tonight. Left hand connects, comes right down the middle from Netesov. And to Netesov's credit, when Harutyunyan does open up, Netesov, he hasn't fallen asleep, and he's been ready to land those counter shots. It can be frustrating in there against Harutyunyan, and we've seen many a prospect, kind of be lulled into inactivity and frustration. And I think Harutyunyan finally lost that mouthpiece that has been dangling on the edge of his lips for the vast majority of this fight. And he has it halfway out of his mouth already. See Harutyunyan getting it rinsed off by his Sprite bottle that his trainer is using. Has a water bottle in the corner. He's 40 seconds away from being able to drink all the Sprite he wants, as he's done his job once again. Gets clipped with a check hook there from Netesov. Final 30 seconds of this contest. And Tikhon Netesov getting some valuable experience here from the 37-year-old Arkadi Harutyunyan. And undoubtedly will improve to 6-0-1. We await the official decision. Let's send it down to the center of the ring. So Tikhon Netesov improves to 6-1. Just to correct myself earlier, I believe prior to the bell, I referenced him as being 5-0-1. Of course, that loss to Dmitry Kulikov that we had talked about earlier being the lone blemish on his record. So now 6-1. And the 21-year-old can perhaps look ahead to his next outing here at USC Soviet Wings as his progression continues.